Hi guys, welcome to the Overdrive Digital Show. As you can see, most of the buzz this week has been generated by EV manufacturers. We'll come to that in a very short while. Our comments section is now open for you to fire away all your motoring queries. Bert and Rohit will join us shortly to answer all of them. But let's start the show with one of the most sought after comparison tests in the SUV space. We pit the Mahindra XUV700 against the Tata Safari.
If you're interested in buying the Tata Safari or the Mahindra XUV700, chances are you know everything about these cars, the features, the specs, the space. But what you might not know is the fundamental difference in the driving characteristics of these two cars and what their real-world performance and fuel efficiency is like. And that's what we're going to address in this overdrive comparison. Starting with the new kid on the block, it's powered by a 2.2-litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel. It's got 185 PS and 415 Nm of torque. That comes in at about the same RPM as the Safari, though the power band is just a little wider. Peak power comes in a little earlier than the Safari too, and you can actually feel that difference because when you put your foot down flat, the XUV700 just takes off. It definitely feels like it's got more explosive performance under the hood. We have sampled this 2.2-litre M-Stallion engine before in the Thar and we loved it in that car. In the XUV700, it feels like it's even more refined. Especially in comparison to the Safari, overall NVH levels are very well contained and this is a fairly refined engine, especially when you put the Safari into the mix. Whether you're driving in the city or out on the highway, getting back up to pace just feels a little more effortless in the XUV700. That combined with the fact that this engine generally does sound quieter and less stressed, it just results in a far smoother experience. The drive modes on the diesel 700 also make for a tailored experience with zip cutting power and smoothing out throttle response for easy city driving, and zap and zoom making for a more responsive powertrain. Though it does feel like the gearbox is a little slower to react than the Safari. Let's get the specs of the Safari out of the way first. It's a 2-litre 4-cylinder diesel engine, 170 PS, 350 Nm of torque, and a 6-speed automatic torque converter sourced from Hyundai. We know that the Safari is down on engine capacity, outright power, and torque. It's a 2-litre versus the 2.2. It's got 170 PS versus 185, and it's 350 Nm of torque versus the 450 that's available in the XUV700. It does use a 6-speed automatic transmission. It's a torque converter unit sourced from Hyundai, and it's very well mated to this engine. Therefore, it is slower than the XUV700 when it comes to outright acceleration. In our 0 to 100 kmph test, the Safari did it in a little over 11 seconds, where the XUV700 was a blistering quick 9.3, which is really saying something considering the size of these cars. It's also not likely that every owner is going to be taking part in traffic light drags, and in the all-important actual kickdown acceleration, the Safari hangs right in there with the XUV700. The biggest difference in the driving experience between these two cars actually comes from the fact that the Safari feels like a big SUV. You have a tiny bit more commanding driving position, like we said, but because of the fact that the steering itself is heavier, it does feel more substantive, and it feels like a large SUV. Now, this could be a bad thing for relatively novice drivers in the city, where sometimes the Safari can feel like it's a handful, especially since you do need to put in a lot more effort at lower speeds to get the wheel turned. As for the actual turning radius though, both these SUVs are pretty evenly matched. What you will notice when you really put your foot down is that there is a little bit of a tug at the wheel in terms of torque steer, and the engine definitely sounds a lot more gruff than the engine in the XUV700. In terms of fuel economy, the larger engine XUV has the edge once again. It runs just a little more relaxed at highway speeds between 100 and 120 kmph. And in the city too, it generally feels just a little less stressed, considering it's running at under 2000 RPM most of the time. If you're driving the XUV700 for the first time, you'll definitely appreciate the light steering that feels near effortless at low speeds. When you're out on the highway, you do wish for just a little more, because the XUV700 doesn't really have that big car feel. Now, this is a good thing for most people. It does feel like the car shrinks around you, and generally, considering that the dash is lower set, these lighter colors, it all just feels like a smaller car. Where Mahindra have really excelled with the XUV700 is in its ride quality package. It's got McPherson struts up front, that's pretty normal, but it's got a multi-link setup at the rear, which is pretty special. It's made even more special by the fact that it's got frequency selective dampers made by Koni, who we know are suspension experts. This of course means that it works at low speeds, high speeds, small bumps, big bumps, everything. Now, the flip side to the near sublime ride quality that the XUV700 has is that it can feel a little soft, and it does get bent out of shape at speed breakers at slightly higher speeds than ideal. In comparison to the XUV700's fancy multi-link setup at the rear, the Safari's torsion beam doesn't sound all that impressive, and it shows in the micro vibrations that the car does let through, but overall it isn't an uncomfortable experience, considering that it does damp some of the larger hits very well. In fact, that little extra firmness actually helps the Safari, especially when you're going over speed breakers, which can sometimes catch the XUV700 out, especially if you're at more than ideal speed. The Safari, you don't have to worry about that too much. You have none of that bucking that sometimes happens in the XUV. The heavier steering feel on the Safari also plays its part in giving it a slightly more confident edge when it comes to handling a set of twisties. It does roll, it does lean, but not as much as the XUV. But more importantly, it feels like it's more predictable at the edge. Sure, if you really throw it into a corner, especially on a dusty surface, you will feel it understeer, but it feels like it wants to grip and it wants to get back to traction a lot quicker and a lot more naturally than the XUV does. Driven back to back with the 700, it does feel like the Safari could do with a little more assistance at low speeds, often needing both hands to feed the wheel through U-turns, while the 700 could easily be swung around single-handed. If someone was looking for the most comfortable SUV, it would be the XUV700. But for someone looking for a little more SUV character, I think they might be able to make allowances for the Safari's ride quality. Objectively, the XUV700 scores higher in almost all areas of consideration and is the wiser pick, the more modern pick, the smoother drive, the list goes on. That is, if you don't really need the third row space or if you can reconcile with the styling. But the Safari isn't far behind and to my eyes looks better. In a lot of ways, the Safari's faults are more like quirks, but more importantly, it's available. The 700's waiting times could put a lot of people off, and unless Mahindra can find a way to get ahead of the incredible demand, a lot of people may just settle for the Safari and they will be happy with it.
Now, there's a lot more to that story. We have also compared the two cars in terms of the interior, the cabin layout, and the comfort as well. So, that entire story will be out on our TV channel tomorrow on CNBC TV 18 at 1 p.m. So, don't miss that show. And we'll be putting out this entire story on YouTube as well. Let's get Bert on the show to get his opinion on the story as well. Hi, Bert.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, Bert.
All right. Sorry, my network's got some issues again. I'm not sure what's happening, but it just keeps stuttering and hanging from time to time. But anyway, welcome everyone to yet another show of the Overdrive Digital Show. And well, I'm hoping that you're all safe out there. And of course, yes, the Safari versus the XV700. Big
Yes,
story.
like you mentioned, it's
Yes.
almost a decade.
Well, it's almost a decade, of course, since Mahindra has been kind of competing against Tata Motors in this space. And whether it was with the Scorpio previously, and then, of course, with the XUV500, and now you've got the XUV700. Whereas Tata Motors has gone from the previous generation Safari to the Harrier, and now they come out with Safari all over again. So yes, they've both come quite far ahead, undoubtedly. Uh, and they're quite impressive products. We remember we drove the XV700 to the Run of Kutch recently, and hopefully at some point in the future, Tata Motors would be well kind enough to give us the Safari to do something very interesting with it, like we've done long time ago in the past. But I'm not entirely sure whether Tata Motors likes us or not enough to give us the car to go out and indulge in some shenanigans. But let's see. Yes,
Mayur,
Abu.
in fact, Bert has written
Yes.
that this time he doesn't feel that the competition is that fierce on almost all fronts. It seems that the Safari is beaten by the XUV. But Mayur, one thing I want to mention is that if you've noticed, if you watch this review, Simran does mention right at the end that the waiting period for the XUV 700 is a point of concern right now, and which is why a lot of people might go for the Safari and they won't be disappointed, is what he said in his review as well. So that
Well,
is.
yes, competition isn't very fierce in that sense, but keep in mind that the Safari also was more or less an upgrade of the Harrier that was then, rebadged and sold as a Safari, something that Tata Motors thought would be a very smart thing to do. Unfortunately, it's not, and it's backfired on them as well, because yes, there aren't too many takers for the Safari, at least not as many as takers there are for the Harrier. And I mean, in my opinion, the Safari is a much better vehicle than the Harrier is. I wasn't very impressed with the Harrier, but then the Safari and the refinement and the changes that were engineered into the Safari make it a significantly better vehicle than the Harrier. So in that sense, I think the Safari is a fairly good package overall. I do think they could have treated it differently. They could have packaged it quite comprehensively than what it is right now. But nonetheless, not a bad attempt. I think Tata Motors was trying to capitalize on the Safari nameplate, and like Mahindra also does, kind of invoke all of these sentimental, emotional purchases. That's what they were trying to do by rekindling that badge, the Safari badge. Bad idea, but it's there out in the market now, and well, I'll just say that Mahindra has done a slightly better job than Tata's at the Safari, because Mahindra started off from scratch with the XUV700. So they had a lot more that they could package in, they could work out things in a very different manner. And that's essentially why and where these XUV scores over the Safari.
But Bhargav Acharya asks any possibility of the XUV coming up with ventilated seats and middle row seat adjustments?
Bhargav, nothing that's been updated to us as of now. And would it come XV700 come with ventilated seats? I do think they should offer that feature. I think every manufacturer in India should offer that feature. But again, like I said, immediately there will not be any updates at this point in time. Right now, in fact, Mahindra is just trying to make sure that they're able to deliver cars, because there is a huge backlog of customers who are waiting for their product. So until and unless that is done, well, they're not going to add anything new, or not going to invite, wouldn't want a rush of or a bevy of new customers flocking the showrooms to book the XV700 all over again.
Okay, guys, I've read a couple of comments saying that our video quality is not that great. Can you just let us know, is it still as bad, and which in particular? Can you see both? Can you see me?
It's quite possible that it's my network because it's been stuttering for a while now for
I
some
can see
strange reason.
you clearly. I can see you clearly. I can see myself clearly. So I'm not sure what the problem is right now.
So yeah, just sorry guys, just bear with us. I'm sure I'm hoping network would kind of improve and the video quality will improve as well. Just bear with us for a few minutes.
Okay, Bhargava, okay, okay. Then now people are saying that they can see us clearly.
All right.
Um, all right. So there were a couple of other. Someone else had asked something. One sec. I just lost track of the questions because of this. Pacific Sword says Safari is a car you can actually buy. XUV for a shopper is an imaginary product.
Well, you're not far from the truth. Pacifics would, at this moment, well, the XP definitely feels like an imaginary product because, yes, I do believe dealerships and people working there, the sales executives have been telling consumers you'll have to wait till the 23 mid 2023 to get delivery of your product. And yes, there is a semiconductor shortage, of course, which is affecting deliveries. There are global supply chain issues as well that are affecting deliveries. And recently, there was this other earthquake that took place in Japan again that affected semiconductor production at Toshiba's plant. It has set them back by almost about 3 to 4 months, and that will, of course, result in further delays to the entire industry. So it's unfortunate, and that is the situation. Mahindras are going to get not just Mahindra. In fact, every manufacturer in the country is going to have to delay orders perhaps for a little longer.
All right. But Yash wants to know, is it worth going for the Kodiak over the Tiguan if the last row will not be used? It will be self-driven.
Yash, we will have an answer for you very, very shortly, probably next week. So just hold on to your horses.
All right. Arun wants to know, when can we expect Toyota cars with a Suzuki badge?
Arun, I don't think that would ever happen. This is a very smart and clever deal that Toyota got into. Of course, they got all of the production, they got all the product without actually having to invest and develop anything, and they're free to put their badge on the Suzuki products. But I don't see Suzuki rebadging their cars and selling them as a Toyota. Toyota would definitely not want to do that at this point in time and devalue their badge value by doing that. So yeah, I don't think Suzuki cars are going to be putting a Toyota badge on them anytime soon.
But Anjuraj says, isn't it high time for Tata to bring changes in the SUVs like Safari and Harrier? It looks under-featured and overpriced.
On the contrary, it's they're not under featured. I'd say they've got the right amount of features in them, Anjuraj. But overpriced again, I don't believe they're overpriced. But though all of the pricing for every single product for every single car sold in India could be made a little more affordable for that matter. But the fact of the matter also is that yes, the input prices, the materials that go into making cars is far more expensive than they were previously. So yes, costs are going to rise. There is not much that we can do with it. Also, keep in mind, Tata Motors is pushing really hard to make their cars one of the safest. So there is a lot of safety that goes into the cars, things that other manufacturers are not offering at this point in time. So in that sense, all of these will add up to the cost. Now, as demand for more safety, more features comes into the equation, prices are going to increase significantly again, and that is going to be a challenge. Where do you draw the line and balance out affordability and features? That's a big challenge for most manufacturers. So yes, I mean, the kind of features that you get, that's the price you get them at. Just keep in mind, if you add more features into it, the price goes up, and like you mentioned, overpriced would feel overpriced again.
All right. Apoor wants to know, how does the XUV's sophisticated suspension compare to the likes of the Jeep Compass and other European SUVs?
Well, then research the actually suspension, and that's a rally bred or other motorsport bred suspension, is significantly better than I would say the Compass. The ride quality is quite impressive. The handling not so much. I mean, both would be on an even keel over there. The Compass or the XUV for that matter. And not to say that the Compass has got bad ride quality. The Compass also, which I'm driving as a long term, has got pretty impressive ride quality. Having said that, however, the XUV700 just feels a little better than the Compass compared to the other European SUVs. The handling is not all that great. The ride quality is better. I'm also driving a Tiguan at this point in time, a Volkswagen Tiguan, and the ride quality definitely feels stiffer on that product because again it's very European in its character, and that's a harder, more firm ride quality that it offers compared to the XUV's plusher ride quality.
But A. Kaushik wants to know which car is the best buy between the Kushaq, the Creta, and the Taigun.
Which car is the best between the Kushaq, the Creta, and the Taigun? Uh, tough one, tough one. Um, this is a very political. Okay, I got to be a very politically. I got to be a politically balanced answer over here because people don't like to hear the answers that we give very often. But I can't recommend anything but the best car to you. I can't change this opinion. And the best car in this segment would undoubtedly be the Creta because it's got the most space, it's got the most features, it's got great value after sales as well as second-hand market as well. So all of that residual values for the Creta are far better than what you would get for the Kushaq or the Tiger. Having said that, if you're looking for a more dynamic SUV, you're looking for something that has got better road manners, has got a lot more poise, is a lot more confident when you're going faster for that matter, then I could recommend either the Kushaq or the Taigun. They're both equally good. Keep in mind that the same car at the end of the day, there's very little, there is literally nothing as in terms of difference, mechanical differences between the two of them. And you could choose either or depending on what your sales or after sales experience with either of these brands is like, or what you've heard from someone else for that matter. You'd like to ask around. But having said that, I mean, I would say the Creta is the best choice over here. But if you're looking for more dynamics, then Kushaq or the Taigun, any one of them will do.
But Jashan Lamba wants to know what's your take on six
I like
airbags?
I
Is
like
it
his previous statement. Go back to that statement. I didn't read the second part of that question. Please give
has to be categoric
Please
and
give
not
categoric
ambiguous?
answers, not ambiguous answers. Okay, Mr. Kaushik, I hope that was categoric enough. Just to be more specific on the details, I would say the Creta has got. I definitely like the Creta's ride quality far better. The Kushaq and the Taigun have also got equally good ride quality. If you're looking for a little more of that firmer European feel for that matter, and definitely better handling. Both of them have got both, whether it's the Kushaq, the Creta, or the Taigun, they've got a large list of features on them. I do believe the Creta has got a slightly longer list of features in it. The space or the space management inside the cabins feels a little better in the Creta. Keep in mind they're more or less the same size, similar sized. However, the space management inside the Creta feels a little more generous. It feels a little more roomier than either the Kushaq or the Taigun. It also stands taller than the Kushaq or the Taigun. Uh, the ride quality again, I mentioned about that. The performance, more or less equivalent over there. They've all got great engines. They've all got efficient engines for that matter. But again, I would give a little bit of, I would score a little higher in terms of the ride, the drivability to the Creta than compared to the Kushaq or the Taigun. Unless of course you're going in for the 1 liter for the turbo petrol engine, which it feels energetic, it feels nicer in that sense. Overall, again, then coming back after sale service and of course the residual values, the used car prices for the Creta are significantly better than what you get with the Kushaq or the Taigun at this point in time. And if that again answers, kind of is something that you're looking for post life or rather post usage of the car, then the Creta would certainly be the one to go in for, not the Kushaq or the Taigun.
All right. Ashish Deshpande, we're very happy to know that you're a huge fan of the Overdrive channel. He says, but he's planning to buy a Hilux, but people keep telling them that why do you want to spend so much money on a car? He's unable to explain to them. And the follow up question is also unable to explain to them that it's an emotional decision to buy that car and not just a machine to take us from point A to point B. What's your take?
Well, most of these people, you should just tell them take the bus to go to work or take the bus to go to wherever you want to do, to whatever you want to do. So that's the only way to make them explain. Like, why do you have a car at all? Just use the bus, use the metro when it comes up, use whatever public transport is there. That's why the government gives you public transport. So that's the only answer that I give to people. The rest of it, I mean, the Hilux would be a good car. Again, I'm not driven it. None of us has driven it. We will be driving it in the month of March, so that report will come to you very, very shortly. March is tentatively when they have got the media drive scheduled, and we will come back to you with opinions on this. Now, there is a lot of hype around the Hilux being the best pickup truck in the world. I don't believe so. There are far better pickup trucks than the Hilux, also for that matter, depending on what you want to do with it and what you want to enjoy from it. The Hilux is a Toyota at the end of the day, and what it has going for it very very strongly is the reliability factor that is there, and that it is, yes, probably one of the most unbeatable pickup trucks in the world. By that same extension, and keep in mind the Fortuner and the Hilux and the Innova are all built on the same platform, so effectively they would all have to be the best in whatever they do in the world. Unfortunately, it's not the case. But having said that, the Hilux is a very impressive pickup truck. I believe it's going to be an expensive pickup truck because it's a CKD assembly operation that they're going to do for that vehicle in India. It's going to be in the lifestyle segment entirely. So you definitely have to think about whether you want to spend that kind of money for the Hilux, because it will be a lot more expensive. Will it be better driving pleasure than the D-Max V-Cross at this point in time? I won't comment on that, but I'm not entirely sure, or I'm not entirely convinced that it will be the 5 or 10 lakhs more expensive than the D-Max. I don't believe it will be justifiable in that sense. Um, so yes, there you go. I mean, it would be a great choice, no doubt about it. It will be a fantastic pickup truck to drive. There is another option in the market that you might want to consider. I mean, at the same time, there are other SUVs also, for that matter, that you can really go in for, and maybe not 4x4 as much as the Hilux will probably give you that. But let's see. Keep in mind the Fortuner, which is made here in India, costs upward of about 35-40 lakhs, goes higher than that. So the Hilux could be more expensive than the Fortuner.
All right, but we have a two-part question from Bhargava. Why don't mass market diesel cars come with DCTs, and why don't Indian brands use technologies like DCTs? And is it worth buying the AX7 luxury variant that'll cost him around 30 lakh rupees on road? There is one more part to this question. Is the DSG automatic gearbox the best automatic gearbox for driving enthusiasts?
Bhargav, yes, the DSG gearbox, the twin clutch systems are the best for any driving enthusiast. Mass market cars, the diesels especially, what you want also is a quick revving engine. You want performance out of it, and diesels are not associated with performance, which is why the dual clutch transmissions are not mated to diesel engines. You could mate it to a diesel engine, absolutely nothing that gets lost over there. It's just that perception-wise, people consider petrols to be the performance edge, to have the performance edge, and that's why the performance transmission or the quicker transmission is always mated to that. Would there be any additional benefits of putting a DCT on a diesel? If you're looking for performance, yes, but that's not what diesels are made for. What people are looking for is grunt. What they're looking for is efficiency from a diesel, and for that, you do not need a dual clutch transmission. A regular automatic transmission, a torque converter would do just fine. So that's why people, or rather manufacturers, don't bring the DCT into a diesel variant for that matter. Why don't Indian brands use technology like DCTs? Yes, they definitely will be using dual clutch transmissions as and when required. Keep in mind, again, like I said, the Indian manufacturers are doing this. Tata Motors and Mahindra, the larger and more important portfolio for them at this point in time is diesel engines. And well, if it is required for a petrol, then they definitely would offer that if it makes sense. Again, keep that in mind as well. Uh, right now, they don't have any cars that have that kind of a performance edge or that performance characteristic, so it really doesn't make sense to add a DCT into that. Is it worth buying the AX7 luxury variant? It will cost 30 lakhs on road. Well, that is a decision you'll have to take yourself, Bhargav, and see whether the other variants, what better value you get in the other variants. But yes, the AX7 is not a bad variant at all. Does it justify the cost? Well, I would rather say wait for a while, see how and what public opinion is on the vehicle. If there are any issues about certain features not working, we've experienced a lot of that in the past, so just wait for that and then decide to go in and buy the AX7 or not.
Okay, but we'll just run through the news and we'll come back to the other questions as well. The first bit of news is from Land Rover. They've opened bookings for the all new Range Rover SV in India with a selection of distinctive design themes, details, and materials from special vehicle operations available in both standard and the long wheelbase variant, which will also include a 5-seater configuration. But what's really created news this week has been Ola Electric. They announced that they've raised over 200 million US dollars from its investors. They've also announced with 100 million USD, it will set up a new vehicle engineering and design center in the UK over the next 5 years, and the facility will be called the Ola Future Foundry. I'm sure you're wondering what Ola is up to next with this design facility. But Bhavesh Agarwal, founder and CEO of Ola Electric, tweeted a photograph floating an idea of an Ola EV car earlier this week. Despite many disgruntled tweets from customers about the EV scooter delays, as expected, the Twitter verse went crazy with this tweet. Many pointing out that Ola Electric should first sort out the Ola EV scooter situation before talking electric cars. Bert, you had a lot to say about this as well.
Yes. So here's my opinion about this whole issue and this whole concern. Uh, Ola Electric is no better or worse off than probably a Mahindra or Tata Motors or any of the Indian or home-made manufacturers for that matter. Because let's face the fact that most of these manufacturers still experiment on us. Products are brought on the market in a rush and delivered to consumers, and consumers often face the brunt of certain features not working, parts not working, issues happening up, cropping up, and that's why the warranties exist. And then, of course, you go back to the manufacturer. This is not working. That's not working. Replace it, change it, do this, do that. We see dime a dozen consumers, irate consumers, talking about putting lawsuits on manufacturers, going to consumer court, burning their cars, and doing whatnot. So in that sense, also keep in mind most of the legacy manufacturers we call them today, or the traditional manufacturers, have got certain number of years of experience within this business, have got a certain reputation and credibility that they've got within this business, and of course they've also got, I would say, like put as funds to market whatever new product they're coming out into the market with. They've got various tools and means of doing this themselves. I mean, if Rajiv Bajaj had to come out with an electric vehicle tomorrow or another vehicle, and if he had to tweet about it, yes, we would all be sitting there on the sidelines and cheering him on. And that's exactly what Bhavesh Agarwal has done. To be fair to him, he has an ambition, he has a dream, and he just shared that with people who kind of went down, certain people who went down the wrong way, and just kind of wanted to diss him for no rhyme or reason. I mean, if those specific people actually wanted to raise questions, they could have raised it at the point in time when Mahindra brought out the XUV700, which is still full of glitches, and raised that as well. Unfortunately, they did. Similarly, with other manufacturers as well, there are so many other products that have always had glitches in the initial period of time, which we've always experienced and seen. Tata Motors, another classic example. We've had so many issues with their products in the past. Cars have broken down, cars have not functioned, doors have not opened, air conditions have not worked. So many issues as such. And effectively, what has happened is nobody's really highlighted, or even if they've spoken about it, no one's really the ones who kind of made the tweet or rather made the comment never really brought that to light. Uh, so yes, there are political biases over here. Keep in mind that there is always a bias existing in place. Bhavesh Agarwal didn't do anything bad about tweeting something that he hopes he would achieve someday. Elon Musk did the same thing. When Elon Musk did it, he himself was at the receiving end of both brickbats and praises. There was an equal audience who encouraged him to do what he wanted to do. There was an audience that said, "What the hell? You don't know what you're doing. You're just going to fail in this." But he pioneered on, and of course, you see where Tesla is today. Who knows? In the next 5 years, maybe Ola Electric would be the juggernaut that Tesla is today. What what the concern was, of course, the comment that Bhavesh Agarwal made post all of that issue, and that is exactly where everything blew up in his face. But Bhavesh has only the tools of social media at his hand to discuss or to talk about this, and in that sense, I think he needs to be a little smarter player within this. Keep in mind, he's already established the fact that he can attract billions of dollars worth of investment based on what he has done with Ola taxis, and of course, post that with Ola Electric with the scooter, and he's still attracting billions for what his next ambition is going to be, which is making an Ola car. Investors believe in that and think that there is a market for it. So, well, maybe there is a market for it. We are not the ones who are putting up that kind of money. Somebody is. At the end of the day, we will consume those products. In time, they will get well. It took Mercedes Benz 100 years to come to the position they are in today. So, well, everybody started a journey somewhere or the other. This is where Ola started. Just keep in mind, Ola Electric has been in the market for not even a year. The first product is just out 6 months, not even 6 months ago. So there's a long road ahead of them. We will know in 10 years' time, well, if they're still around or not. But yeah, that is something left to be seen. No one can at this point in time decide whether Ola will or rather have a say in whether Ola is doing the right thing or the wrong thing. They're just doing a thing.
All right. So we'll just be patient to see where Ola lands up. But Bert, you have also tweeted about big plans from the Renault-Nissan Mitsubishi alliance for 2030, a plan to invest 23 billion euros in the next 5 years to support electrification plans.
Yes,
How
yeah,
does
yeah,
that impact India as well?
well, 35 new vehicles coming out, and some of these on very diverse platforms. Out of which there definitely are one or two platforms that look like they could come down to India, especially that electric Micra. The Nissan Micra will be discontinued, and the new Micra, next generation Micra, will be all electric. So it's quite possible that that would be the car that could come down to India. That is one of the products that could come down to India, simply because Renault does not have any premium product or premium electrified product that would make sense for the Indian market at this point in time. But they're also a mass market player at this point, at this moment. So I guess that could be one of the products that Renault could come down to India with, the electric Micra version of their car, the Nissan Micra electric and Renault's electric version of the same car. But yes, it is a big plan. They are the leaders, global leaders, one of the global leaders in the market for electric vehicles. And it's not just the products that they've got; it's also the technology and the environment that they're building around, and whether it's in Europe, whether it's in China, whether it's in the US markets, and hopefully in some time within India as well. Right now, it's a little shaky ground, or rather, it's a little uncertain ground as to what they're going to be doing exactly next in the Indian market. What we do know is that the Tiger is there, the Triber is there, and they're doing fairly well with those products. This year may be more of a consolidation for them. They'll also be looking at getting some new products in, possibly towards the end of this year. They will have some new products in the market, and I'm hoping that one of my international trips comes up very soon to see something that Renault is possibly going to be offering to the Indian market as well in the future. And it looks like a fairly exciting product. Which direction they're going to go in exactly, I'm not sure at this point in time, but we will have all of those answers for you very, very soon. What we do know is that this entire alliance has got about 35 new products coming out, all of them electric, and all in various categories, all in various segments: small cars, medium sized cars, commercial vehicles, trucks, in all the businesses that Renault, Nissan, Mitsubishi are present for that matter. But the alliance certainly can grow from this. They certainly do a lot more interesting work in this. Maybe Mitsubishi would come back into India at some point in time and come in at the top end of the market with a more premium product, whereas Renault and Nissan might take the more affordable route into the electric market, into the EV market. But again, it's for us in India. While there was no specific announcement targeted towards India, this is what we can surmise from the press release that they sent out to us, that there could be the possibility of something happening for the Indian market from this whole electrification plan. Because undoubtedly, in the next 5 years, they have to do something. So that plan will come out of this itself.
Okay, and while we're talking about electric vehicles, Rohit is joining us to tell us more about the motorcycle bit of news as well. Hi, Rohit.
Hello,
Hey,
Sohini.
Rohit,
Hello, Bud. Good evening, everyone.
what are you driving today?
Hello. So, I'm with the i20 N line. I've been driving it for a week, and the more I drive it, the more I'm loving it. The first drive was, of course, in Rajasthan. We drove it on some open highways, but now in the city, in the congested Pune traffic, it's an absolute fun car to drive. It just reminds me of my college days. It's lovely. I just love it so far. So yes, nice car. So we've been doing some shoots with it, and those should be out on the OVERDRIVE social media handles very soon for all of you to watch. Anyway, so the motorcycle news, as Sohini mentioned, there is quite a bit of electric news as well. But before we come to that, let's just quickly get one news out of the way. Honda has launched the 2022 CBR 650R. There are no mechanical changes to it, of course. It's the same motorcycle that we've loved up until now, and now it comes with different colors for 2022. What you see on the screen is a black with orange accents. They also have the crowd favorite red color, the Grand Prix red, but it now comes with slightly revised, slightly different graphics. The price difference between this, in fact, they are following the Kawasaki route in a way by just doing few cosmetic upgrades here and there, mainly the paint scheme. But that's not a bad approach. This is a very nice motorcycle. It was updated recently for Euro 5, and this is the motorcycle that we have here now. The price difference between this and the Ninja 650 is about 2.5 lakh rupees on the X showroom, and we always have said that this is on the pricier end of things, but this is again in a way unparalleled because this is a 4-cylinder engine, and it's the only motorcycle to offer that at the moment in this particular price bracket or this particular performance bracket. So in case you're interested, the motorcycle is now available for booking at your closest big wing dealerships. As always, Honda only brings in limited quantities of these motorcycles. So if you've been waiting for it, just grab your motorcycle as soon as possible, because even at that price, it sells pretty quickly. It sells out pretty quickly. The next bit of news is, of course, electric, and that is coming from Pune, very close to where I am. And this is the Kratos. The Kratos has finally been launched. It comes from Tork. Now, Tork has been in the news for quite some time, and the Kratos is finally here. A bit of that God of War inspiration. Certainly doesn't look as muscular as you would expect a Kratos to be, and somewhere in that design it does have hints of the Isle of Man tourist trophy logo in it, but we'll talk about that later when we actually review the motorcycle. So this motorcycle is powered by a 4 kilowatt hour battery pack. It's a 48 volt lithium ion battery pack, and there are two motorcycles or two variants to choose from. There is the Tork and the Tork R. The Tork gets a 7.5 kilowatt motor, whereas the Tork R gets a 9 kilowatt motor. The Tork R will produce about 38 Newton meters of torque, whereas the baseline torque will produce about 29 Newton meters of torque. Top speed for the baseline is 100 kilometers an hour. Top speed for the R is 105 kilometers an hour. There are three riding modes as well. There's a sport mode, which will give you roughly 70 kilometers, a city mode, which will give you about 100 kilometers of range, and an eco mode, which will give you about 120 kilometers of range, is what they are claiming. The baseline torque Kratos is, I think I was calling it Tork and Tork R. Sorry about that. Kratos and Kratos R are the two motorcycles. So you can book it at a price of 999 rupees at the moment. And the pricing for this is about 106 lakh rupees, if I'm not wrong. Let me just pull up the pricing. Just give me a sec. Yeah, the Kratos base model is priced at 1.08 lakh rupees. That is with the FAME 2 subsidies applied in Pune. And the Kratos R is priced 15,000 rupees more at 1.3 lakh rupees. In fact, Tork has been, like I said, in the news for quite some time. They've been building this motorcycle for quite some time. They are calling it a motorcycle that is built on the racetrack, because Tork has a very illustrious history with Isle of Man racing, and they entered into the electric category. They did quite well in that category as well. So it's all coming down from that. They have a very glorious history to talk about in that sense. And this is their first product, which is finally here. So we are waiting to try out this motorcycle. We've only seen it so far on the web conference. We are hoping to try it out very soon. And once we do, there will be a review of this motorcycle on Overdrive. The next bit of electric news comes from Delhi. So Delhi-based EV company Komaki Electric Vehicles, which is a division of the KLB Komaki Private Limited, has just launched an all-electric cruiser motorcycle. So while the Revolt or the Kratos are street bikes, if you want a cruiser electric motorcycle instead, this is probably where you would want to park your money. So it's launched at the price of 1.68 lakh rupees, and it boasts of a 180 to 220 kilometer range on a single charge. Like the Kratos that we just spoke about, it has a 4 kilowatt hour battery pack. However, the motor is a 4 kilowatt motor, and that is where probably the range claim is coming from. Again, we haven't ridden this motorcycle, so we can't really talk about it, but the claim is between 180 to 220 kilometers. I think it's quite a good looking motorcycle. I can't really comment much about the fit and finish, but the other vehicle that has been launched alongside this is the scooter that you see on the screen, which is the Komaki Venice. Of course, that Italian name comes in because it has an Italian styling, like a certain Italian scooter that we all love in India, the Vespa. So it has styling inspired by that, of course. This one is priced at rupees 1.15 lakh rupees. It has a 3 kilowatt motor and a battery pack of 2.9 kilowatt hours. And the company says that you will get a range of about 90 to 120 kilometers from the scooter on a single charge. The Venice also boasts of a color LCD display, just the way we saw on the Ranger Cruiser. And this one gets 3 riding modes and also an overtake button. In fact, this and the Ranger both get an overtake button, which give you a temporary boost to quickly pull an overtake, because of course the motor size is not that big. So it has been introduced in the market with 9 colors. This particular scooter has 9 colors. That is what is cycling on the screen in front of you. And it also comes with Komaki's self-diagnosis system, a Bluetooth connectivity option, a mobile charging point, a reverse assist, an additional storage box, and crash cards. So, like I said, both these vehicles are already available for you to book in case you are in and around Delhi and you would want to, get yourself an electric cruiser or this Vespa-like electric scooter. That's it from the motorcycle or the two-wheeler news. Back to you, Sohini and Bert.
Thank you so much, Rohit. I believe you still have a bit of shoot to do, so we'll let you go.
Yes,
I was
thank you so
scrolling
much.
through to see if there are any more questions, but there aren't any two-wheeler questions as of now. So thanks so much for joining us.
Okay, great. I'll take your leave then. Thank you so much.
All right, have fun.
Take care.
See you.
Bye bye.
But there's a question here from Hector. When will MG Marvel R electric launch in India? Remember during the Auto Expo, we saw the Marvel X.
Well, Hector, that is a pipe dream. To be honest, MG may not bring the Marvel R Electric to India anytime soon, at least. It's like a one-off car at this point in time. Very select markets that are getting the Marvel R, and I don't see it coming out to India because there are other priorities for them at this point in time. Whatever happens for the next year or so will be consolidated or other to make sure that deliveries are not affected for the existing products, for the Hector, for the Gloucester, for all of their products for that matter, including the electrics. That's one challenge going to be there for them. And of course, slowly they will inject a few other electric vehicles, maybe some more IC engine vehicles as well in the next year. What we do know is that they're also looking to expand their portfolio from SUVs to probably increase or rather add in sedans. So hopefully we'll see something coming out in that space. They've indicated something at the time of the Auto Expo, but those plans haven't been fulfilled as of yet. We'll know very shortly what they're up to. But the Marvel are out of the bag, out of the question.
All right. Anish Thomas says that his car has been sitting in the garage due to work from home and weekend curfew. He used to start it up to prevent battery discharge, but the steering wheel is now feeling too tight. How can he resolve this?
Well, Anish, the only way to do this is to actually take your car out and go driving, so that well, again it's a cold season, so there's quite a strong possibility that certain lubricated elements are not working as smoothly as they were. Also, keep in mind because you've been leaving the car in one place, sitting in one place, there is a chance that there could be some amount of rust formation on your steering rack. You just need to get out effectively and start driving either on the steering rack or on the tie rod ends. There would be an issue with them because the car's been lying idle. So my suggestion: get out, drive the car at least once a week if you can. Drive the car, maybe a few kilometers, but that warm up will essentially allow it to kind of prolong its life. Also, go and check what the tire pressure is in your car, is on your car, because it's quite possible that the tire pressure has dropped down considerably. There will be a lot more friction that you will feel and a lot more effort that the steering wheel takes to turn around. So just go and check that as well. But apart from that, it's a good thing that you're starting your car, and at least this does not allow your battery to discharge. But the better thing to do is, of course, to drive it, not just leave it on idle, but to drive it for a while. That charges the battery much more efficiently. It also ensures that every other moving part inside the car is functioning the way it should.
There's a question here from Aditya saying he wants to know what is the best for driving on the highway, the MG Astor or the Kia Seltos?
Well, they're both good cars, Aditya. And to be honest, at this point in time, I could only recommend the Seltos to you because we haven't compared the Astor against the Seltos. Simply because, well, the Astor also, keep in mind, is a completely different segment. The Seltos is a slightly larger vehicle, the Astor is a smaller vehicle. There are various other aspects to it as well. But the crux of the matter is that we haven't got an Astor. MG does not have an Astor at this point in time to give to us, just so that we could, do these comparisons and test stories that were lined up. uh, Fingers crossed that they will get a car in their they will get a few more than one car in their media fleet, which they can distribute to us journalists, to us petrol media, to test and evaluate and well, give you an opinion on it.
All right. S. Aurora says, which petrol SUV or sedan would you suggest to purchase? Budget is 26 lakh rupees. Monthly run is 1500 kilometers. Good mileage, city drive 100% for longer use, 10 to 12 years in Delhi.
Wow. um, as Aurora, that's a fairly long time to drive an SUV. I'm not even sure what, because I can't. I definitely cannot recommend a diesel car for you, because 10 to 12 years you will not be able to use that vehicle. It's only petrol in any case. And the petrol choices, there are not too many choices that are really interesting in that sense. Your options would be SUV sedan. My recommended figure, if you can afford it to go up to 26 lakh rupees, get the Octavia. You'd enjoy that, and especially if you've got, or you know that the dealership in your area is a reliable guy, will get you good service and will answer to whatever has to be done with the car, with a lot of transparency, and of course, in a very competent manner. So make sure of that. But the Octavia is probably one of the best choices that you can buy at that 26 lakh rupee budget. If not, you've got the other options as well. You've got the Kushaq, you've got the Creta, you've got the Taigun, and you've got the Seltos as well. All of those will fall very comfortably within your budget. uh, Go for the top end versions, better products for that matter. My recommendation, either the Creta or the Seltos. I'll ask comparison the Creta one to the Seltos. We haven't been down to compare the whole bunch of SUVs that are there in the segment as of yet. We will be doing that very, very shortly. But my recommendation would be the Creta, then the Seltos. If you're looking for more driving dynamics, you're looking for something that is a little more agile, a little more fun to drive, then I would suggest either the Kushaq or the Taigun, wherever you get the better deal, depending on what pricing is there for these vehicles in Delhi. So that's my suggestion. These are the choices that you have in front of us. It's not a very, very diverse choice, but there are some interesting cars that you can buy in this segment.
But Mayur wants to know, can we expect any new products from Kia, maybe a hatchback or a sedan?
Well, yes, Mayur, there are certainly products that we can expect from Kia, and certainly products in the sedan and hatchback categories. At this point in time, all your focus is on trying to get these SUV and so-called MPV SUV mix or something of that sort that they do with the currents. Now, I can't tell you much about the currents until the 29th. That's tomorrow, because there's an embargo on that. But having said that, they have plans. I have seen, all right, and this is confidential, not to be shared technically, as in I cannot tell you details of it, but I have seen and we've been shown sedans and hatchbacks that Kia has in the pipeline for the Indian market. These may not come in now, they may come in much later, but there are cars other than SUVs for the Indian market as well in Kia's portfolio.
Ravi Singh wants to know which one is a good choice between the Astor base variant and the Creta base variant. He says that MG will deliver the car in Feb at a price of 9.78 lakh rupees.
I would recommend the Astor at this point in time. It's got even for the base variant, there's still significantly nicer features inside that. It's a good car overall, and it should be a fairly nice car to drive. It's got good dynamics, it's got good ride quality. We haven't. My only concern with this is that we haven't driven the Astor on the roads. The only opinions that we can form are based on what we drove the Astor at the BIC, that is the racetrack, and there, I mean, it feels quite impressive. I didn't sense any issues with the suspension in that sense. In that matter, it's not the best place to test drive and to evaluate a car, an SUV of that sort. But nonetheless, it adapted itself to the track quite nicely. So in that sense, I would say yes. I think the Astor, if you're getting deliveries quickly, and that's a reasonably good price, 9.78 lakh rupees, just go in for that. Because I do know for a fact that Creta has got issues with deliveries at this point in time. Hyundai is struggling to deliver cars on time.
Okay, I don't know how I missed this question. Mayur wants to know, can we expect a Maruti version of the Hilux and Fortuner?
Unfortunately, no, Mayur, none whatsoever from Maruti. Keep in mind, Maruti operates best within a particular price band. That's where it will stay.
Okay, and S. Aurora wants to know, what about mileage of petrol automatic option? Would you advise someone to use it where the daily running is 55 kilometers?
I would recommend it as a petrol at all, for that matter, at this point in time, simply because the fuel prices are expensive. It's exorbitant, not as expensive. And petrol and automatic will will effectively drop that efficiency down even further. So you cannot get any great mileage out of it in any case. So my recommendation would be stick to a manual petrol. Uh, I'm not sure if you're kind of person who enjoys driving the cars frequently and getting it out onto the highways and going out for road trips. But for all purposes, I mean, yes, the automatic definitely makes sense for a large city where you want the comfort and convenience. But for all other purposes, if it depends on what is your priority. If efficiency is your priority over comfort and convenience, then the manual transmissions are the only ones that will give you better efficiency.
Okay, and Jashan Lamba had said, what's your take on six airbags? Is it even practical where cheapest cars are highest selling models than safest cars?
Interesting question, Jashan. Here's my two bits on the whole six airbags bit, and I think it's great that they offer six airbags. Six airbags don't operate efficiently when you don't use seatbelts in the rear seats, and 95% of Indian consumers do not use seatbelts when they're sitting in the rear seat. Probably 99% of them don't use seatbelts when they're sitting in the rear seat. So it's not a practical solution. But unfortunately, this is a feature that the governments have also are pressurizing manufacturers into offering, and of course, other manufacturers are, of course, it's pure competition at the end of the day. So everyone's trying to give the six airbag bit at this point in time in their cars. But yes, until consumers are educated about using seat belts in the rear seat, these airbags are absolutely useless.
Okay, and one last question. What's the news on the new Baleno? Do you think it will be as good as the last iteration?
Well, again, until and unless we drive the new Baleno, see what the changes are, how many mechanical changes are being brought into it, I really can't comment. Do I think it'll be impressive? I do believe it'll be impressive. Every generation of the Baleno has been absolutely impressive. There's never been a doubt about what Suzuki has been able to achieve with that car, at least with that brand in that sense. So yes, the next generation of the Baleno will be a very very impressive vehicle. Do I think it will be as good as the last iteration? No, I'm not sure at this point in time, but I do believe it has to be better than what the previous generation had to offer. Uh, Looking forward to the N-line review. Well, yes, Rohit will get you that, I'm sure, very shortly. So we'll have all of those stories for you very, very soon.
All right, that's about it. Those are all the questions that we had for the day. But we'll just check out what's on the Overdrive TV show on CNBC TV 18 tomorrow at 1 p.m. We'll be bringing you a detailed road test of the iCNG Tata Tiago. That's the first CNG model from Tata, that as well as the Tigor, and a comparative test between the XUV700 and the Tata Safari. There's a lot more than we brought you on this show. The repeat telecast is on Sunday at 12:30 and 8 p.m. as well. That's about it on the TV show.
Well, see you guys. Have fun over the weekend. I know I'm going to be going out tonight and having, well, a little bit of a party with some close friends. But yeah,
And be safe.
be safe, stay safe. Of course,
Stay
be
safe,
with
yes.
only amongst those people whom you know are safe as well. So, well, chill out. Have a nice weekend.
Long weekend as well. I guess a lot of people must be out already.
Possibly, possibly.
Yes. Okay, so we'll see you
All
guys
right.
next
See you
week then.
guys.
Thanks so
Have
much for
fun.
tuning in.
Bye bye.
Bye.